College-level writing at a 2-year college. In this video, we will cover definitions, expectations, acceptable versus not acceptable examples, and why it matters. Let's start with definitions first. Before we talk about grades, assignments, or examples, we need a shared definition of what college-level writing actually means. College-level writing is not defined by grammar alone. It is not defined by effort alone. It is not defined by length. And it is not defined by simply being enrolled in college. College-level writing is defined by the level of thinking that is visible in the writing. Instructors evaluate thinking using Bloom's taxonomy, which describes different levels of cognitive work. These levels explain why some answers, even correct ones, do not meet college-level expectations. Here are the core thinking definitions in plain language for the thinking levels used to evaluate writing. Remembering level is recalling facts or definitions. Understanding level is explaining ideas in our own words. The applying level is using course concepts in real or realistic situations. When we move to the analyzing level is where we explain causes and contributing factors. The evaluating level is making a judgment using criteria and justification. When we move to the top level of creating, we are proposing original recommendations or solutions. At a 2-year college, remembering and understanding are foundational, but usually not acceptable for written assignments. Applying is the minimum acceptable level. Analyzing is the most common expectation. Evaluating and creating appear in advanced or capstone level work. This means some responses are not acceptable, even when they are correct. Important clarification to remember is that when a response is marked not acceptable, it does not mean the student is incapable, the effort was ignored, or the answer is wrong. It means the response does not demonstrate the required level of thinking for that assignment. Skills develop over time. Standards remain consistent. As a 2-year college, our role as educators is to support students as skills develop and maintain clear college-level academic expectations. We do not lower expectations, we make them explicit. College-level writing is not restating the question, summarizing information, listing facts, repeating definitions, or offering opinions without justification. Even when those responses are grammatically correct, clearly written, or thoughtful. If the reasoning is not visible on the page, it cannot be assessed. College-level writing is presented in organized paragraphs that explain reasoning, connect ideas, and show how conclusions were reached. Short answers, bullet points, or question and answer formats rarely demonstrate enough reasoning to meet college-level expectations. Grades are based on the level of thinking demonstrated, the clarity of reasoning, and alignment with assignment expectations. A response can be correct and still not earn full credit if it does not demonstrate the required level of thinking. Here are some examples contrasting non-acceptable and acceptable answers. The first assignment we are looking at is to submit in one paragraph explaining whether a decision was effective and supports your explanation by using course concepts. Not acceptable. The decision was effective because it helped improve the situation and worked as intended. Why? Explains the outcome but applies no concept and shows no reasoning. Acceptable. The decision was effective because it addressed the identified problem and led to improved outcomes. Why? This answer works because it explains why the decision was effective and clearly connects the outcome to a course concept, showing understanding and application of the material. The second example shows a common mistake students make when analyzing a decision's effectiveness and the factors that influenced its outcome. Not acceptable. The decision was effective because changes were made that improved results. Why? Describes what happened, but not why. Acceptable. The decision was effective because it targeted key factors contributing to the problem. By altering the approach, the organization influenced behavior and outcomes, demonstrating a cause and effect relationship. Why? This answer is acceptable because it explains why the decision was effective by identifying contributing factors and showing how changes in approach influenced behavior and results. Our third example shows us a common misstep. The assignment is to analyze why the decision led to improvement. Not acceptable. The decision worked because performance improved. Why? Saying the decision worked because performance improved only tells me the result. An analysis explains why performance improved and how the decision caused that change. Acceptable. Performance improved because the decision addressed underlying issues rather than surface-level symptoms, which explains the sustained improvement observed. Why? This answer works because it explains why performance improved and shows the relationship between the decision and the outcome. It breaks the situation into causes and effects instead of just restating the result. Our fourth assignment shows us the evaluation expected. The assignment is to evaluate the effectiveness of the decision using appropriate criteria and justify your conclusion. Not acceptable. I think the decision was effective because it helped the organization. Why? This answer is not acceptable because it gives an opinion without using criteria or justification. Evaluation requires you to judge effectiveness based on standards, not just say you think it worked. Acceptable. Overall, the decision was effective based on measurable improvement in outcomes. However, its success appears limited to the short term, suggesting it may require revision to remain effective over time. Why? This answer is acceptable because it evaluates the decision using clear criteria, justifies the conclusion, and acknowledges both effectiveness and limitations. For the fifth assignment, we show the creation expected. The assignment is based on your analysis. Develop recommendations to improve future decisions. Not acceptable. The organization should keep doing what it is doing because it worked. Why? This response is not acceptable because it restates past success instead of developing specific, forward-looking recommendations to improve future decisions. Acceptable. To improve future decisions, the organization should implement ongoing evaluation, incorporate stakeholder feedback, and develop contingency plans to adapt to changing conditions. Why? This response is acceptable because it proposes clear, actionable recommendations that build on the analysis and focus on improving future decision-making. Let's do a rapid-fire walkthrough and spot the level quickly. Answer: the decision worked. Understanding level. Answer: the decision improved results. Weak applying. Answer: the decision addressed the problem and improved outcomes. Applying. Answer: the decision targeted contributing factors, creating a cause and effect relationship. Analyzing. Answer: the decision was effective short-term but limited long-term. Evaluating. Answer: future decisions should incorporate evaluation and flexibility. Creating. As a note, correct answers are not the same as acceptable answers. Let's look at some additional assignment examples next. In this assignment, we are to explain why a particular approach was chosen and how it addressed the situation. Not acceptable. The approach was chosen because it was the best option. Why? This response is not acceptable because it gives a vague conclusion without explaining why the approach was chosen or how it addressed the situation. Acceptable. The approach was chosen because it directly addressed the core issue, demonstrating how strategic selection influences effectiveness. Why? This response is acceptable because it explains why the approach was selected and clearly connects it to how it addressed the core issue and improved effectiveness. Next, we are to compare two options and explain which was more effective and why to show comparison with analysis. Not acceptable. Option A was better than option B. Why? This response is not acceptable because it makes a comparison without explaining why one option is more effective or providing any reasoning. Acceptable. Option A was more effective because it addressed the underlying issue more directly, explaining its stronger results compared to option B. Why? This response is acceptable because it compares both options and explains why one was more effective by linking it to underlying issues and stronger results. For this one, we need to explain how a specific action led to a particular outcome to show cause and effect. Not acceptable. The action caused improvement. Why? This response is acceptable because it compares both options and explains why one was more effective by linking it to underlying issues and stronger results. Acceptable. The action led to improvement by altering key conditions that influence behavior, explaining the observed outcome. Why? This response is acceptable because it explains how the action led to the outcome by describing the conditions and behavior it influenced. In this assignment, we need to justify whether a decision should be continued, modified, or discontinued. Not acceptable. The decision should continue because it worked. Why? This response is not acceptable because it states a conclusion without justification or consideration of alternatives. Acceptable. The decision should continue with modification because it produced positive results but revealed limitations that must be addressed. Why? This response is acceptable because it justifies the recommendation by weighing results, identifying limitations, and explaining why modification is appropriate. This assignment is to reflect on the effectiveness of an action and explain what was learned to show analysis. Not acceptable. I learned that the action was effective. Why? This response is not acceptable because it restates the outcome without reflecting on what was learned or explaining why the action was effective. Acceptable. The outcome revealed that addressing root causes leads to more sustainable improvement, which explains why the action was effective. Why? This response is acceptable because it reflects on the outcome and clearly explains the lesson learned and why the action was effective. The pattern students must recognize. Not acceptable writing is when we only state conclusions, repeat outcomes, rely on opinion, or hides reasoning. Acceptable college-level writing explains why, connects actions to outcomes, applies concepts, and makes thinking visible. The line that ends confusion is that a response can be correct and still not meet college-level expectations if it does not demonstrate the required level of thinking. As a reminder, writing that does not yet meet college-level expectations is not a failure. It means the skill is still developing. Our role as educators is to support growth, not redefine the standard. Why this matters beyond the classroom. These expectations align with workforce expectations, transfer institution expectations, and professional decision-making. Being able to explain reasoning and justify decisions matters far beyond any one's assignment or course. The final takeaway at a 2-year college is that you are not expected to write like a graduate student. You are expected to demonstrate college-level thinking. Effort matters, accuracy matters, but thinking is what earns credit. College-level writing is not about where you are, it is about how clearly and deeply you think.